Andishe Online Germany, AOG. Themes from the University. Theme 8. The 7 Factors of Creation. Depending on what a soul deserves, it is determined in the afterlife which body type and which family and social environment the soul can attain in the next earthly life. For this reason, we see some people who have not been given the opportunity necessary for education, even though they're talented for it. On the other hand, there are people who do not make any progress at all. Although the conditions are there, this also applies to animals. A noble horse and a mule or purebred dog and a stray dog. All this is based on mental progress that the animals make. Ostad Elahi. In a section of Master Elahi's teachings that forms the basis of the integrated or combined sciences, we come encounter a number of factors and facts that can be used to scientifically explain the origin of the physical body and the fate of beings, including minerals, plants, animals, and humans. Master Elahi called these effective facts 7 creation factors. These factors are the effects that not only shape the body, but also influence genetic and psychic characteristics. In this article, we will try to examine these factors individually and explain their effects. Literal translation. 2 categories of general factors are involved in human destiny: natural factors and emotional factors. The factors of nature are: 1. Hereditary factors from the blood up to 3 generations. In special cases in relation to creative characteristics and in general in relation to nature and intrinsic requirements. 2. Thoughts of the parents at fertilization or fusion of sperm and egg. 3. The food from which the sperm and the egg are formed. 4. Food injected into the fetus in the womb. 5. The time and place of birth of the child, where and when. 6. The food and environment in which the child is raised, family and social environment. 7. Soul factors are the same as God's will. Ostad Elahi. Translation with interpretation. 1. The genetic effects of the last 3 generations of a child, i.e. the father and mother, as well as the parents and grandparents on both sides. That is a total of 14 people. This is what we call the 3-generation rule, i.e. 3G rule. 2. The thoughts of the father and mother during sexual intercourse and conception. 3. The nutrition of the parents, from which the germ or embryo is formed. 4. The food that the fetus received during the mother's pregnancy through the placenta, also called fruitcake. 5. The time and the place. At what time, on what day and in what year, but also at what place the fetus is born. 6. The nutrition with which the child grows up after birth and the environment in which he is raised. 7. The psychological and soul factors that are actually God's providence or God's will. These factors are much more important than any other factors. The above factors can be classified in 3 successive phases. A. Phase 1, before intercourse. The factors that influence the male and female gametes but independently of each other. B. Phase 2, during sexual intercourse. The factors that affect intercourse, conception and fertilization. C. Phase 3, after birth. The factors that also affect the psychological and moral characteristics of the child. Some of these 7 factors of creation are involved at all levels and phases of the production of the next generation of all beings, from minerals to the human race. In the case of human creation, however, the first 6 factors are always effective, but part of the 7th factor may remain inactive or participate in the process. In order to better understand this issue, we will examine the 2 areas of the above factor. The last factor of the 7 factors of creation, that is God's will. is the most important and influential factor that can be effective in two areas. The first area refers to the information recorded in the karma system. If this data is so negative that all 6 factors are to be arranged negatively, and thus, for example, the person must have a body with a disability in the next earthly life, God's providence can intervene for a special reason and deactivate the negative effects of the karma system. The second area in which God's will can influence a person's fate is social status. In other words, some of the spiritual judgments that are made in the afterlife based on the data of the karmic system or database may result in the person concerned having to experience a heavy fate. In such a complicated situation, only God's will can help. In this way, the destructive effects of this judgment are either completely eliminated or at least compensated. It must be borne in mind, however, that every kind of fate is actually determined by human actions and intentions. According to the teachings of the Master, this kind of divine intervention also includes a more general aspect, namely the spiritual record or information of the karma system of each soul at the beginning of a new earthly life is temporarily deactivated and archived to give it the opportunity to move in the right direction. If he chooses the right path, the destructive effects of this karma system will be neutralized forever over time. With an in-depth study on the works of Ustad Elahi, we come across a different kind of divine providence and God's intervention in the destiny of human beings, which is extremely important for the completion of perfection. This is that every good deed is intensified at least 10 times in the karma system and then stored in the database, with a negative action being stored only once. This means that every good deed can neutralize the destructive effects of at least 10 bad deeds. Obviously, in this process, the nature of the action, the intention, and other factors are taken into account. This means that the good and bad deeds must be reasonably similar. That is why true mystics insist that their followers always do good deeds. Your questions. Dear ma'am, first of all, I have to thank you for asking the following questions while checking the texts. That tells me that you fully understand it. Your second question in the article, The 7 Factors of Creation, about the following paragraph. The first area refers to the information recorded in the karma system. If this data is so negative that all 6 factors are to be arranged negatively, and thus, for example, the person must have a body with a disability in the next earthly life, God's providence can intervene for a special reason and deactivate the negative effects of the karma system. Was that the implication here, is that disabled people were previously bad people and somehow deserve their fate? That's pretty offensive. I am myself disabled because of a chronic illness, and dangerous to say. It's a line of thinking that is a slippery slope to eugenics. My answer. First of all, you have to understand that nobody on earth has a perfect life. Everyone is somehow paying for the negative deeds they've done in their past lives. No one on earth can live flawlessly. It is impossible. You must also understand that all souls in the hereafter are very happy to accept the punishment in their next life. Though I really don't want to call it punishment, for what has prevented them from progressing. People who have severe fates such as physical or mental disabilities are so brave that they want to deactivate all negative codes in one life. So they themselves accept such a fate voluntarily during an earthly life. The other souls who still have to return to earth are not so brave and want to pay for the faulty life, not only in 1 but in 2, 3 or 4 earthly lives with lighter difficulties. That is a decision taken by us only in the hereafter. Nobody forces us to choose this or that life. It means that if you have a chronic illness, that was your decision, because your soul was strong enough to choose this kind of life. We have to know deeply that all of us here on earth definitely make mistakes, and that is why no one, I emphasized no one, not even Queen Elizabeth herself, has a perfect life. We all pay in different ways for our negative acts. One has no child, the other has no husband or wife. One is poor and the other is sick. Only through an earthly life with too many self-made problems is it possible to strengthen the soul and finally to achieve perfection. Isn't that what we do in a fitness center? The heavier the weights, the stronger our muscles become. You said that this way of thinking is offensive. I say that's absolute truth, but you've only read half the story. In one of my books I interpreted the whole story scientifically. You've corrected 17 parts of this book. I will let you proofread the rest and you will see that all of our problems, both physically and in daily life, are only tools for us to strengthen our soul. In short, the souls in the hereafter say, "Did I make mistakes? Okay, I'll pay for it." They do this because they know how important it is to fly to the light source as soon as possible, where we belong. Farah Mars Tabish. Comment from the same reader on the above answer. Thanks for the explanations above. That is quite reassuring and makes sense. Research and investigation. Farah Mars Tabish. Sources. Works of Ostad Elahi and the book Human Being from the Point of View of the University of the Perfection Process by Farah Mars Tabish.